Hey fans, welcome to another episode of Mixtape Memories, the Retro Rewind 80s podcast experience. And today I have a guest, one of my favorite people in the entire universe, Chris Casamassa, who most people probably best know as Scorpion in the Mortal Kombat movie and the Mortal Kombat Conquest TV show. But he was also kicking butt as a martial arts machine in a plethora of other things. He was Red Dragon in WMAC Masters, George Clooney's stunt double in Batman and Robin. He was in Blade, VIP with Pamela Anderson, Walker, Texas Ranger, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, China O'Brien, and he even popped up in The Karate Kid. And beyond that, Chris actually helped save my life, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Hey, Chris, thank you for taking your time out to chat with us. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing, man. Thank you for that great intro. It was awesome, and congratulations to you with your show.
Oh, thank you. It's a lot of fun, and the fans are absolutely spectacular. So let's jump into Mr. Chris. Should I refer to you as Shihan now?
Chris is fine. That's fine.
9th degree black belt, and you have multiple black belts, but you only wear those when you have black shoes, right?
That is correct, because it clashes otherwise.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so you come from a martial arts family. You're one of the oldest families that kind of started up karate here in the U.S. I mean, it dates back to the 60s with you guys, right?
Yeah, my father founded our style and system of martial arts in 1965, and he based it on different styles of martial arts that he had learned. The first, of course, being judo when he was in the Marine Corps and stationed in Japan as a military police officer. But he had a quest and kind of a thirst for knowledge and learning different martial arts skills. So in the early 1960s, he did something like at that time that was unheard of, and that was mixing and combining styles of martial arts. It was the martial arts in America at that time was very segregated, meaning if you were a Japanese stylist, you were only in quotes allowed to do Japanese style. Chinese style, same thing. You never, as they say in Ghostbusters, cross the streams. But my dad didn't want to go with that and decided to cross the streams and do it. And so technically Red Dragon Karate is America's first mixed martial arts style that was developed into a system.
He was on the East Coast and he moved out here to California, and you guys started the schools up here. Mm-hmm. And now as in the 80s, as a young, good looking guy that can fight, Hollywood called.
That is correct. It was more later 80s, but yeah.
You were in The Karate Kid.
That is correct.
Briefly. So how did that come about?
Yes, if you blink, you miss me. So when they were filming Karate Kid, they wanted to kind of make it authentic, which was cool. And I was competing locally at the time. I hadn't gone on the national tour yet, but there was a local tournament happening at a college in Northridge, and the production crew decided they wanted to film the scenes of the movie, wrapping it around a real martial arts tournament to give it kind of authenticity. And so that's what they did. And I happened to be at that tournament, and I'm in there doing the background fighting, but don't blink when you watch it. But that kind of got the bug going for me to do movies and TV and stuff. So yeah, it was fun.
Well, I have a controversial question for you then. The crane kick, was it legal? Because I know you've judged. What is the number of tournaments you've judged? 1.5 billion tournaments over the years. I think that's how many you've done.
Yeah, 1.5397, I think is what it is.
So the crane kick, was it legal? Was it justice for Johnny, or was Daniel-san right?
Listen, for that movie and that tournament, it was 100% legal. In a real martial arts tournament, that is technically not a legal move. I mean, actually, if you did that in a real tournament, people would laugh at you and sweep your other leg. So
that's you know what? If it was me, because I've judged a few myself, I would give it to Daniel, just because if you walk into that and you get hit with what he did, you deserve to lose that point. That's what I'm saying. You know, he just walked right.
Yeah, he walked right into it.
Okay, and so I know you've done a few other things, but let's jump up to Black Eagle with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yes. Now, this was early Van Damme before he took off. He was the bad guy in that one. What was it like working with Van Damme? Did you get to work with him directly?
I did. We got to work together and hang out and actually work out together in Malta, of all places, which is a little island off the coast of Italy where they shot the film. And it was great. Him and Shokazuki was the main star of that film, but that was a great experience. And at that time, to me, he was a great guy and, young and upcoming future star.
Now, were there any issues working with him? Because he has a reputation for being kind of rough on stunt guys. And anybody that's watched my live stream has heard my run-in with Van Damme when we worked on a project and I got my sternum cracked. by him misjudging a mark. So did you have any issues with him there, or was it all good?
It was all good. I didn't really, and I've been very fortunate in my career, and I've heard stories about him and other people that I've actually come across and worked with. And I don't know, maybe if I was just lucky, or maybe it's the fact that they like actually see what I can do, or they're like, this guy's a real legit black belt, I better not F with him. But I've never had, and I'm going to knock on wood, I've never had an onset like bad experience of somebody's ego writing out a check that the rest of them can't cash with me personally.
Yeah, most of the time, the stunt guys are always like dead on pros. I mean, that's what
Oh
they're
yeah.
paid for, and that's what they do. But like if it came down to it in a fight, could you beat Jean-Claude Van Damme? Straight up fight, no weapons.
I honestly don't know. I would
What
like
about
to believe
on the dance
I'd
floor?
like to believe I could. On the dance floor, he would kill me. I'm a
Okay,
fighter, not a dancer. As the old saying, I'm a lover, not a fighter. Well,
You're
I'm
a
a
fighter,
fighter,
not a dancer.
not a dancer. That's it.
I just figured I had to ask. Fans want to know: can Chris Casamassa dance? So
No, he cannot.
can't or shouldn't? Because that's
Shouldn't. I think shouldn't. I can, but it is ugly, man. You did something you don't want to see.
Now, you hit it big in the 90s with Mortal Kombat, but before that, the Power Rangers were taking off. And I've always been surprised that being kind of where you were and who you were, that you didn't get involved in that franchise. How come?
No, I did get involved in the franchise, and I didn't at the same time. So when the Power Rangers came out, I got a call from my agent saying, "Hey, do you have any talented students that are between, I think they were 18 and 21, but can play teenagers?" I couldn't play a teenager at that time. I was only in my like mid 20s, but it just wasn't going to work out. But I said, "Yeah, I got this really hotshot student named Jason Frank." And we sent him to the auditions. He was my student, and he was working for me at one of my studios, and he got the part. And he went on to become probably the single most famous Power Ranger in the history of the Power Ranger franchise, right? And went through like an evolution of Green Ranger, White Ranger, Red Ranger. It was awesome. So technically, I kind of got him his start in that. And then I remember
you gave birth
I
to the
gave
Green
birth to him.
Ranger.
Yeah, and I remember him calling me, and after the audition, he goes, Sensei, I got the part. Sensei, I got the part." I go, "Hey, dude, that's awesome. Make sure you're at work tomorrow."
And did you make sure that he knew that you got a cut of everything he made?
Nah, I missed that part. That's what I forgot to say.
You forgot that part.
10%.
Well, it's funny because I actually studied not with him, but in the studio that he eventually sold.
Yep.
The San Dimas studio, or Villa Verde, or it jumped around a lot.
Villa Verde, yeah.
Okay, so Mortal Kombat was kind of a big movie. It's kind of huge. It helped revitalize, or the game helped revitalize the arcade industry, and the movie was enormous. It did about 120 million, which at the time was rare, and it was the biggest video game adaptation, biggest live video game adaptation until I think Tomb Raider. How did you get involved with Mortal Kombat?
I got involved with Mortal Kombat on two fronts. One, there's an old saying in the industry that it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And a lot of people don't really understand that, but people in the industry get it. And I didn't get it at first either, but I was able to get into the audition for it because someone knew me and said, "Hey, this guy might be a good fit for this." That's part one. Part two was when I went to the audition, it wasn't for Scorpion. It was to be a background fighter. Like I hadn't been in a major motion picture at that time. I've been in some small, like Black Eagle, things like that, small parts in minor films, right? But this was, a big Hollywood production, as they say. So they needed a bunch of martial artists to be background fighters. The scene where Goro's fighting Johnny Cage, the scene where he's in the ring with Art Lean. They wanted real martial artists. I give Larry Kasanoff a lot of credit for that because again, he wanted to make it authentic to the game, right? He knew the game had a lot of fans following it, and he wanted to make it as authentic as possible. So he was inviting real martial artists to be part of this thing. The fortunate thing for me was the way they had the audition set up was very similar to a martial arts tournament. In other words, they had 3 guys sitting in chairs, and they had like 50 of us come in and just perform our best stuff. Well, at that time, I was on the pro tour, and I was the #1 competitor in the country at that time. So to see that setup, I was like, "Oh, this is right in my wheelhouse." But I also was watching people do their stuff, and I'm like, "Oh man, some of these guys are really good." So I wanted to do something that would go above and beyond because I really wanted to be in the movie. So as I'm doing my stuff, I realized, well, these guys sitting in the chairs are only about 3, maybe 4 feet high all together. So I just ran at him and I did a jumping sidekick over them, clearing them. And it was funny because I still remember to this day, it was like slow motion, watching their heads just go back in their chair and see this guy go up and over them. And I did some moves on the other side, and I did like a diving roll back over. And then I finished. Yeah. So
Now, did you give them time to change their pants after you did that?
No, I didn't. And they didn't really say anything. But that night I got a phone call and said, hey, we want you to come back tomorrow. So I go back tomorrow. Now 50 guys has become maybe 15 or 20 guys. They asked us to do some weapon stuff. I did some stuff there. I get a call that night. Hey, we want you to come back tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my God, it is so hard to get into this movie as a background fighter. I mean, because they told us when we got there, all the parts are filled, everything's cast, we just need background fighters. So cool, whatever. Third day I go back, there's just 3 guys, me and 2 other guys. And they've got one of the big Panavision cameras set there and a group of people behind the camera. I had no idea who they were. And there's just 3 of us, and we're standing there, and they're basically just filming us, filming our bodies. And this is the part of the story where it gets a little interesting. So a guy walks over to us and goes, hey, would you guys mind taking off your shirts? Now, I get a little nervous, and I'm also a little bit of a smart ass. So when he said that, I looked at him and I go, listen, if you'll get me in the movie, I'll go to your trailer. Right? Now, most times I tell that story, people laugh, and because I thought it would be funny. This guy looked at me with the deadpan stare, and I go, I'm dead. Like whatever this was, I just lost it. That joke just fell. It was meant to be funny, but it wasn't funny. So we take off our shirts, and of course, I was in pretty good shape. The guy on my left, he was in kind of good shape. The guy on my right was like a Furby. He was all pelt. And so they're filming us, and then they go into this like football huddle behind the camera, and the guy who I made the bad joke to came over and shook my hand. He said, welcome to Mortal Kombat. You're going to be a Scorpion. Now that guy found out later, turned out to be the director. I had no idea who it was. It was Paul Anderson. And until that very moment, I had no idea what we were doing or what it was for. And that's kind of the story of how I ended up becoming Scorpion in Mortal Kombat. But it wouldn't have happened had someone not seen me in something else and said, hey, I think you should come in for this.
But what happened in his trailer later after that?
Nothing. It's just a horribly bad joke that went the wrong way.
Now, I know originally they wanted Van Damme for Johnny Cage because the character was based on him, but he wound up doing Street Fighter instead. How it would have been absolutely badass to have a Scorpion Van Damme fight. I mean, that would have been absolutely insane.
Yeah, that would have been pretty cool. But listen, Lyndon did a fantastic job. Lyndon Ashby
played
Johnny Cage, and I give him a lot of credit for really.
He was a better actor, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. So you were in the Mortal Kombat Conquest TV show, but not the sequel. What happened there?
So when the sequel was getting ready to shoot, the Mortal Kombat Annihilation, I was actually the first person cast. I got a call from Larry, said, hey, we're doing the sequel. We want you back. And I was like, dude, thank you. That's awesome. However, I had also gone in and auditioned for Batman and Robin for Clooney's stunt double because his original stunt double had gotten hurt. Again, someone who knew me that I worked with on a different project called me in and said, hey, we think you might be able to do this. So I went into that and I got to meet the director for Batman and Robin. And it just so happens that George Clooney and I have the exact same chin. So they put me in the mask, and the director walks over and goes, oh my God, you're perfect. And I go, okay, well, thank you. You don't want to see me do any moves? No, we don't want to see you do any moves. That's how I got cast for that. I was like, that's the easiest audition I ever had. And but the stunt coordinator had vouched for me, like, this guy's legit. He can do all the stuff, right? So the shooting schedule.
It wasn't a lineup of chins.
No,
it wasn't like
lineup of chins.
8 chins and then 3 chins.
No, I just went in. They put a headpiece on me, boom, and it was the weirdest thing, but it was cool, right? Because now I'm like, I get to wear the bat suit. How cool is that? So that was scheduled for, I think, to shoot September, October, and November of that year. And Mortal Kombat was scheduled to shoot June, July, August. So I go, cool. 2 movies back to back, got it. Well, as you know, Matt, in the movie business, things change and they change rapidly. So schedules got mixed up. Some of the stuff from Batman got pushed back. Some of the stuff from Mortal Kombat got pushed forward. And all of a sudden I was faced with a Sophie's choice. I have to pick one or the other. There's no way now, logistically, I can't do both. My agent calls me and goes, it's just not going to work out. You have to choose. And I had done Mortal Kombat and I really wanted to do the second one, but I also really wanted to wear the bat suit and be Batman. So I chose that instead. And I did it, and and Larry was very gracious, right? I talked to him and I'm like, hey man, this is going to be great. And he goes, just do it. Don't worry. We're going to change some things anyway, and blah, 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 blah. So that's how I ended up getting in the Batman film and not being in Annihilation, which,
Gotcha.
it kind of worked out. Annihilation didn't really come out as well as people had thought.
And you got to be Batman. I mean, that's
got to be Batman. Listen,
general.
I'm one of maybe 25 people on the planet that's ever actually worn the authentic Batsuit and got to do action and fighting in it.
Right. And I know, like, I've heard you tell the story before, because we did a panel together a few times about action. And you talked about when you were first starting on the film, you guys were, like, I guess, breaking the stunts down in the previous Batsuit where you could move a little better.
Yeah. They gave us the suit. It was cool because on the inside, they had labels for every suit. It said Kilmer on the inside. So I was wearing Val Kilmer's suit from the previous Batman movie to practice the stunts and action in. And everyone asked me, hey, do you have anything? Do you have any parts of the suit? I got to tell you, I tried so hard to keep at least something. But man, the security is so tight on those sets and those suits. I couldn't even get the gloves. I tried to get the boots. I knew there was no way I was getting the body armor, and they had a bunch of helmets. So I go, maybe I'll get one of the, no, and no.
You didn't even come away with a nipple.
I did accidentally end up with one thing, though. You can kind of see it in the background there of the shot. And that is the bat gun from one of the scenes that we shot there. But I don't know how I ended up with that. It's just a mystery to me.
Well, the statute of limitations is over, so you're still, you're
so.
safe.
I think
you're
good. Yeah.
So that movie was a little bit of a mess. I have to ask, was it your fault? Did you do it? Is it on your shoulders? Is that what happened with Batman and Robin?
100% no. And I got to tell you, honestly, we shot there in that movie. There are at least 3 other fight scenes that we shot as Batman that never made the film. And we did some of the great, we were finishing the fight scenes, Matt, and the crew was applauding. And they're like, we've never seen anything like that before. We were getting standing ovations from the crew while we're filming it. So I'm like, oh, this movie's going to crush. It's going to be great. All the other stunt guys are like, dude, you're going to get so much residuals. This is going to be great, blah, blah, blah. And then the movie and so when the movie came out, we went to the premiere and I'm watching it and I'm like, well, where's our fight scene right here? Where's our fight scene right here? And what I heard over the years was, George Clooney at that time, he was big on TV, but he didn't really have a proven film record. So what I heard, I don't know how true it is, was the studio got a little nervous and they if you go back and watch, which I don't recommend, but if you go back and watch the movie, it's actually more about Arnold Schwarzenegger and Uma Thurman, who were huge stars at that time, than it is about Batman. And even Robin and Batgirl have more on-screen time than the actual Batman. And I think they just maybe got a little nervous about Clooney and they wanted the other stars to kind of support it. And it ended up being, not one of the greatest Batman movies ever. But I don't care because I still got to wear the Batsuit. Doesn't matter.
What we need is to go back and have the Casamassa cut. We need to go back in and put all that stuff in, re-release it, and make people live through it one more time.
Yeah. Hey, they did it with Justice League.
Okay, backing up. Before Batman, though, you did WMAC Masters, which came out, I guess right around the same time as the Mortal Kombat Conquest, or after Mortal Kombat.
It came out after the movie, about 2-3 years after the movie, I think.
So you were Red Dragon, which is taken from your family's martial arts school. And that show was actually like co-produced by Renaissance Atlantic, who did the Power Rangers. Mm-hmm. Was that show kind of built off of Mortal Kombat? Because that was huge at the time, even after the movie. I thought that show was kind of amazing in the concept. It had tons of like world-class, like Olympic level martial artists, but it didn't really take off.
Listen, you're right. It didn't take off per se, but we were still number one. It was the number one show on Saturday mornings for Fox, which was airing it at the time. So we had a nice 2-year run. And then we were going into year 3 because our ratings were great. We were going to do it. And then again, as you know, but most outsiders that aren't in the industry know, is there was kind of an infight because in season 3, what happens is if you do 3 seasons of a show, you now can run syndication. You need at least 3 seasons to run syndication. So what happened was the producers and the owners of the show were fighting over syndication rights and percentages. And since they couldn't come to agreement, the producers just kind of said, F you, we're done. And then the show kind of ended because we had the script. We had all the stuff for season 3. It was going to be great because we ended season 2 on a cliffhanger. But sometimes the business of making TV shows is a little different than the reality of the show itself.
when you can have a success and it still gets canceled. I mean,
Yeah,
but your show, I was on I was working on a show at the same time that was a competitor on Saturday. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
It was called Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills, which was
Stop it. Is that
90210 meets
real?
the Power Rangers.
Is that
Yep.
real?
Yep.
I'd never even heard of that.
One season, it was 40 episodes, and it was on USA. It was, I think, right around the same time, 95-ish, 96.
Mm-hmm.
And that show was absolutely terrible. And it was all, everybody was trying to play off the Power Rangers and all of that stuff.
I don't know. I love the name though. What's tattooed? What?
Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills.
Wow.
That is indeed a real thing. It's absolutely awful.
I think we should bring it back and do a live action version of it. Was it animated or live action?
It was live action, and basically the Power Ranger characters, the alien fighters, they were normal kids. When they turned into their superhero versions, they were giant, but they were bodybuilders in tiny spandex suits with weird kabuki masks. And so they didn't even have the mechs. It was just giant bodybuilders fighting monsters. Wow. And it was absolutely terrible. So you guys did way better than we did. We only lasted a season, and it was awful. It was awful. So talking about a mess like that show, I mentioned earlier that you helped save my life. And that's not hyperbole. That's true, because a little over 10 or 12 years ago, I came out of a serious battle with cancer. One, I was pretty sure I was not going to survive. I was dead, really. When I came out, I felt like I had a second chance, and, I was sick. I was 450 pounds. I was wanting to fix myself, but I had no idea how. And that's when I ran into Red Dragon Karate. My son had been a student, and I decided, what the heck, I'm not doing anything else. I need to try something. And over about 18 months, I went from the size of a small dwarf planet to hitting about 205 pounds and getting my black belt. And I did it all in my 40s. And it was thanks to the training from your team. And I'm not sure I ever thanked you for that, but your training and what you did was amazing for me. And it made me realize something that I think a lot of Gen Xers feel now, which is that I don't feel like I'm my age. I just turned 50, and I feel like I'm 30. And age is just a number. What, we as a generation are looking and feeling better. But it's hard to get off your butt when you're 45 or 50 or 55. Do you have any tips or wisdom that you can give to somebody? Because you're in amazing shape. And I know you do it for a living. It's professional. But still, how can somebody who's a mess like I was, or I'm a mess now, again, somebody who is in declining health but wants to fix it, what can we do? How do we inspire ourselves to get back to it? I just babbled a lot. I'm sorry.
No, man, listen, it's okay. And thank you for that. And it's always great to hear, how we've helped people over the years, because sometimes we get so caught up in day to day of teaching and training our students that it's easy to lose sight of the impact that we have on people. And, I've been doing this so long now that I'm now teaching children of children of children. I'm on my third generation of kids that I'm teaching whose dad came to me and their grandpa trained with me, which makes me feel super old. And I'm like you, I'm in my 50s. But I've been doing this my whole life. So yeah, that's part of it. I always tell people always go, hey, you're in great shape. I go, listen, I'm a thin guy trapped in a fat guy's body. Man, I could eat Twinkies and cupcakes and junk food like nobody's business. It's just, fortunately for me, the discipline I learned in the martial arts, the self-discipline, keeps me from blowing up in what I would truly have no problem. Well, I'm very vain, so if I started getting fat, I'd be like, oh my god, I look terrible. Matt, and listen, the truth is, there is nothing that I can say that will make someone want to get in better shape. That has to come from within. When there's the lip service of, I want to get in shape, I want to take care of myself, and then there's the mindset that says, I'm going to do this. So I want and I am are two different mindsets. And that's something that someone has to be able to do on their own. You had motivation. You had a child, and you wanted to see that child grow up and become. And so that was your why. This is why I want to do it. You got tired of it for yourself. You had enough, and your kid was looking up to you like, what's going on with my dad? That's powerful. That's motivation. I do this because I love it, but I also do it because I have, like you, I have kids. They're grown now. My daughter's 22, my son's 19. But that's my why, and it keeps me moving, and it makes me continue to do what I do. So if you don't have kids, and you don't have a family or something like that, you just really have to find, what's your why. What's your why? Are you true? What's going to make you the happiest? And listen, and you could attest this, Matt. The training is not easy. It's fun in a way, but it's not easy. And people sometimes want to take. I'd rather take a pill than go work out, right? So there's only two regrets, right? And two pains: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And you can go through either one. You went through the pain of discipline to come out on the other side, and I'm proud of you, and I think it's amazing. But it's difficult for me. Like, if you come to me, not you per se, but if someone comes to me and goes, "Hey, I want to get in shape," well, I'm gonna work you out. I'm gonna get you there. But I can't make you keep coming through my door. That's something that you have to do. Kind of a long answer to your question there.
That works. I mean, from what I would say is increments. That's what helped me get through it. And because just in general, it's, again, when you're 450, if you lose, like, you think, okay, well, I lost 5 pounds. You're like, that's nothing. It's like, yeah, but it's a step. And when you're that big, and again, I was that big my whole life. I lost 5 pounds. That was amazing. And then, the next month I lost 6 pounds. And I'm like, holy shit. And again, it's, you're talking, it's such a small amount, but it's progress, and celebrate those small victories because they motivate you. And just know that keep going, because you can succeed if you let yourself succeed. And I think that's what a lot of people don't do. They don't let themselves succeed. They decide before even if they come to you and they say, I'm going to do it, they may have decided in their brain that they can't do it. But you can do whatever you want, if you work.
That's right.
That's the way it is.
And you're 100% right. Small steps, man, little victories. 450 to 205 seems like a huge, huge thing. But 450 to 445, 445 to 440, those little steps. And it takes time. What I tell people that want to lose weight is, I go, look, you didn't put all that weight on overnight. You didn't put it on in a month. So don't expect to take it off in a month. You've spent years or a lifetime becoming the weight that you are right now. So it's going to take some time. It'll come off a lot faster than it went on, but it's going to take time, and have patience. David Goggins, are you familiar with him?
Yep.
He wrote a great book, came out last year or the year before, called Never Finished. And if anybody really wants to hear a crazy story about overcoming adversity and going through it that might inspire them, that's a book that is pretty powerful.
And I'll include a link to that in the description below as well. So what is Shihan Chris Casamassa up to these days? What are you doing, man?
I'm working on building an empire, man. We've got 15 locations now, and we're about to open our 16th one in Pasadena, California, coming up very soon. And my goal is to get us to 25 locations by the end of 2025, which we're on track for right now. And the reason is, I want to continue to help our owners make a bigger impact in their community so they can serve more people. And listen, I'm going to get up on my soapbox for a minute, because listen, I'm a big fan of the martial arts and a believer in what it does for people. But it really is my personal belief that if everybody on the planet studied martial arts for just 1 year, our planet would be a much better place. It's just the discipline and the focus and the respect that martial arts teaches just has such a powerful impact on people, even if they only do it for a short time, 6 months, 9 months, a year. That's the thing. So I'm just trying to kind of spread the word and get it out there, and help, where we can.
Sure. I'm going to add on to that a little bit. Is it actually gives something that is, I think, missing now, but it's something that helped GenXers growing up, which is it gives you a sense of personal responsibility. If you do something wrong, if you don't show up, you have to answer for it, and that's missing right now in a lot of people. They don't accept the consequences of their actions. And that's one of the things and that's an important thing, especially for kids, and it gives not only discipline, but it gives that sense of personal responsibility that I think is lacking in general.
Listen, I'm gonna second that. And it's all about what you said, is it's accountability, right? And unfortunately, there's so many people in society that aren't taking accountability for their actions. They'd rather point their finger instead of pointing their thumb, right? And blame. Yeah, but what about this? Yeah, but what? Instead of yeah, but, it should be, I messed up. This is what I did wrong. I accept responsibility for my actions. They don't see that in our leadership today. They're too busy. Everyone else is too busy pointing a finger instead of pointing a thumb. And the martial arts is exactly opposite, man. You're right. You mess up, you got to be accountable for that mess up. You got to answer for it. You got to fix it.
So where can my listeners find you online? And again, I'll include links, but tell us.
I'm probably one of the not as easy as you, but I'm one of the easiest guys to find on any social media platform. Just type in my name. Good luck spelling it. That's always the hardest part. But, my name, chriscasamassa.com. You type it into Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm very easy to find. I'm on all the platforms.
Okay, very good. Well, I'll include links to all of them. Hey, I want to thank you for hanging out with me and chatting and giving me your time. It's much appreciated. I know you're busy. Any final parting words?
Just thank you and congratulations to you, my man. I really, it's been a pleasure watching your evolution and listen, truth be told, you were in Red Dragon, you were a big fan of Red Dragon, and Red Dragon helped you a lot. We had a little rough patch there where you weren't so much of a fan of Red Dragon, but listen, we all go through stuff and it's okay. You're on the other side of it now. And I appreciate you and the time that we spent together, and I appreciate you having me on the show, man. It's a whole new chapter in both our lives.
Absolutely. Like I said, RDK, no matter what, was a huge influence on me. Like I said, it helped save my life. And that is amazing. And I think people, even if you don't have a Red Dragon near you, go, get off your butt and work out. It's worth it. It makes you feel better. So I want to thank everybody for listening. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that used to be one of our tagline slogans for Red Dragon was, if there's not a Red Dragon near you, it's time to move.
There you go. So, hey, thanks everybody for listening, fellow Gen Xers. I will be back next week. And thanks, Chris, and good night.